What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to the channel. The Seas of Dragonfall Part 1 update landed on PC yesterday. Let's jump into the patch notes. Now, before we get into that, we don't have any console news yet, y'all, so we don't know when it's coming to console. As I mentioned on my earlier video, I'm assuming it's probably in certification, and it is a holiday weekend, so do not expect any console launches this weekend, and then hopefully we will get some console news here at the start of next week. This is the Part 1 episode. It's a new hero, the Shard Vault, a different login reward system. Let's dive right into it. First off, the new hero is the Aquarian. There is a trailer here in the patch notes that you can watch. However, I am going to skip it so I can tone this video down, as the patch notes are a bit long. The Aquarians has a melee polearm primary attack, similar to the Monk. The Aquarian utilizes polearms to dispatch enemies at close range. When attacking, every third consecutive attack will drench enemies. Secondary attack, the Aquarian charges up and fires a ranged frigid shard of ice, piercing enemies and dealing frost damage. Now, with this in mind, you don't have to get a special weapon, y'all. No boss weapon required. The secondary attack is a set attack. It is the Ice Shards projectile and does not change when you change weapons. The only thing you need to concern yourself with when picking out a weapon for your Aquarian is the weight. So light, medium, or heavy, depending on which weapon you like to use the most, is what you're going to want to focus on. The active abilities, Ice Orbs. The Aquarian summons 4 rotating balls of ice, dealing damage to enemies they come in contact with, and granting them a chance to evade incoming attacks. Whirlpool calls forth a raging whirlpool at the target location, damaging enemies and drawing them towards the center. The Whirlpool is incredibly cool, it's quite powerful, and additionally, it's going to be very, very useful whether you do a hero damage or an ability power build. The Oceanic Rift summons forth a geyser of high pressure water that damages, knocks up, and drenches enemies. The Bubble Bulwark creates a bubble shield around the Aquarian. This reduces incoming damage and provides gradual health regeneration. When the bubble expires, it detonates, damaging nearby enemies. Now, you can self-detonate this bubble earlier just by activating the ability again, and that will start the cooldown for you and instantly detonate the bubble if you're just looking for a cooldown. Defenses, the Water Sprite fires 3 bubbles in quick succession at its target, dealing water damage to enemies in a small area. The Pufferfish launches a large cluster of homing spines at enemies. Spines poison those hit, dealing damage over time. The Jellyfish generates arcs of electricity that deal lightning damage to multiple enemies within its radius. The Artillery Crab, with its unusual ammunition, the Artillery Crab damages and oils enemies in a wide area upon impact. Now here it's a little confusing. It says passive abilities. These are actually 2 of the new mods that are dropping right now. These do drop, so I don't have them personally yet, but I do know people that have gotten them. So these mods are dropping in the game now. Play actively on your Aquarian during the combat wave to increase your chances of getting these mods. First one is Icy Fury. Consecutive hits of the Ice Shards ability deal increased damage. Now, Ice Shards is your secondary attack, or your alternate fire with your polearm. So I'm very curious on this one and exactly what the caps and limitations will be. Venomous Overload. The Pufferfish's defenses spines deal more damage the further they travel. So the further away your Pufferfish is, the more damage those spines will do. Now, as with any new hero, we got lots of new shards. Let's bump through the shards real quick. We got Quick Orbs. Increase the spin rate of water orbs by a percentage. Current trade-off, Whirlpool no longer displaces enemies, however damage is increased. Empowered Bulwark increases the damage of Bubble Bulwark. Enduring Bubble decreases the mana cost of water orbs by a certain mana per second. Greater Rift increases the damage of Oceanic Rift. Hailstorm Cascade. Ice Shards has a percentage chance to spawn an additional Ice Shard, dealing a percentage of your hero's damage stat. Hard Water increases the damage of water orbs. Enhanced Bulwark increases the healing of the Bubble Bulwark. Heavy Current increases the damage of Whirlpool. Sharpened Ice. Ice Shards piercing damage reduction per enemy hit is reduced. Permafrost Punisher increases Ice Shards crit damage and crit chance. Restoring Ice. Ice Shard critical hits restore mana. Riftquake. Oceanic Rift unleashes an Earthquake, dealing a percentage of your ability power as magical earth damage. Superheated Water. Oceanic Rift has a percentage chance to unleash superheated water, igniting targets and causing them to take 20% extra damage for 5 seconds. Heavy Current increases the damage of Whirlpool by a percentage. Water Warrior increases the Aquarian's melee damage by a percentage, but reduces the damage of Ice Shards. Caustic Venom increases the poison damage of the pufferfish, but reduces its defense damage. When the Water Sprite, this one's Escalation, when the Water Sprite attacks damage an enemy, the Water Sprite's defense damage is increased by a percentage for 2 seconds. This effect does stack 3 times. We got Focused Current, increases the defense damage of the Jellyfish defense by a percentage, but reduces the maximum number of chained targets. Giant Shells increases the projectile damage radius of the Artillery Crab defense and increases its defense damage. We got Nerve Shock. The Jellyfish defense paralyzes enemies with its attacks. Paralyzed enemies have a percentage chance to deal 80% less damage with their attacks. Now, this one, there was a little confusion with it. It was checked out and confirmed by Chromatic. How this one worked is exactly the way it's written. So it's 100% chance to paralyze the enemy, and what paralyzation does is give the enemy a percentage chance to do less damage when attacking. Puff Up. This one seems quite fun. When the pufferfish defense takes damage, it temporarily bulks up, gaining defense damage and taking less damage for a period. Yep, this means you can kind of do pufferfish wall spawn camps effectively. Oh yeah. Spiritual Focus increases the projectile damage radius of the Water Sprite by a percentage and increases defense range by a percentage. Now, I will be doing a full in-depth overview of the Aquarian as soon as I get all the shards and mods required. I will say that at first look, it looks better as an ability power hero than a hero damage hero if you plan on playing actively. I personally really want to play hero damage, however, there is a lot of issues with it currently, and the scaling is just not the same as the abilities. The abilities hit like an absolute truck. Now, of course, we got the Shard Vault. I just did a video on the Shard Vault going through it earlier. That will be posted up on the channel. Additionally, just wanted to throw it out there since it's not listed. The Shard Vault costs 1,450 gems and is absolutely incredible quality of life. Now, we got a new daily login calendar. Every day that you log in, you're going to get a new reward. The way this one is set up, and it was confirmed, you're never going to miss out. So, for example, if day 1 I log in and get the first reward, and then say on day 2, I've got real life going or whatever, I can't get logged in, and then on the 3rd day I come back, I get the second login reward. So this is based off of the number of logins you do, not a specific schedule. Additionally, once you get all 30 logins, it is going to reset and go back to 1. So this is a continuous program, assuming it will have changes over time as changes come to the game. But it does look pretty darn good as far as the daily login goes right now. Now let's get to balance changes. This is a big one for sure. Reduced Bling Bow Damage Scaler from 3 to 2. So your Bling King bows got slapped. Reduced Single Shot 4-shot type damage scaler from 2 to 1.5. Single Shot 4 has dropped down in effectiveness as well. Reduced Werewolf Commander health scaler by 25%. Werewolf Commander attack rate was increased up to once per second. And then the Werewolf Commander's damage was increased by 50%. This one overall is not really huge. I mean, obviously it's a big buff as far as a big nerf as far as the number goes. However, the Werewolf Commander is still just an absolute beast and still can easily be used the exact same way you were using it before. Reduced Drain Aura damage by 66%. I think this was expected, as there's been lots of cheddar cheese going on with the Drain Aura of late. Sadly, the 66% I think completely takes it out of contention, in my opinion, as a usable item at all now. I mean, I just can't see wanting to use Drain Aura at all now. Added the target limit of 10 to Drain Aura, so that was another big benefit of the Drain Aura, is it didn't have that 10 target limit. Like other AoE defenses, it now does. Reduced Thick Vines damage by 20%. Frost and Electric Aura now have a range cap of 5,000. Increased Stone Wolf enemy health by 15%. Angry Nimbus range scaler lowered from 1.3 to 0.85, and the damage was reduced by 10%. Same thing here, the damage reduction and the range reduction. This one is not a huge deal. You're still going to be able to use the Angry Nimbus, for the most part, exactly the same as you were before. So you should not have an issue using your Angry Nimbus. Fixed a friendly ghost doing more damage than intended. This was a known bug by the community and heavily abused over the course of the last several months. Very fun bug to have in the game, but basically, friendly ghost was doing absurd damage. Yeah, that got dialed back in. Removed the 2 million damage cap for Poison Dart Towers. Previously, Poison Dart Towers, the damage of the dot itself that gets applied was capped out at 2 million. This has now been removed, and it will have no effective cap, basically. The Dragon's Nest max range reduced from 6,000 to 3,500. The Dragon's Nest base range lowered from 3,000 to 2,000. The Dragon's Nest range scale lowered from 0.7 to 0.55. Dragon's Nest damage reduced by 10%. The damage reduction is not huge. The range reductions are massive. No doubt about it. You cannot use the dragons the way you used to use the dragons. Now, can you still use dragons? Absolutely. Of course you can. You just have to move your build around and make some changes. However, heavy-duty range changes on the Dragon's Nest. Flame Aura max range reduced from 5,000 to 1,850. Water Aura max range reduced from 5,000 to 1,850. This one sent red flags flying off everywhere from many people, and I can tell you, you were nowhere near the 5,000 before. Remember, this is a nerf to the maximum range, not the range scalers or anything. So your auras are exactly the same as before because you were nowhere near this at any point prior in the game, other than when the town was bugged and was stacking ancient power. Fissures of Embermount max range reduced from 2,800 to 1,850. So it's in the same boat there. The fissures, it was nice having those being a little bit easy to get blown up a bit larger. They have the same cap now as the Flame Aura and Water Aura. The Squire Shard Fight Me Not now works with all damage sources, not just tower damage. So that's a good thing. You know, the Fight Me Not shard for the Squire now directly works with the Squire's attacks and is not just based on the towers themselves. Increase the Hailstorm damage scaler by 20%. Crystal Hammer can now rotate, and Crystal Hammer's targeting width increased from 15 to 30. If you're a fan of the Earth Shatters and the Crystal Hammer, you no doubt have preferred the Earth Shatter the entire time. The Crystal Hammer is now pretty darn usable, y'all. We'll be doing videos on all of these changes and checking it out here in the upcoming week. Firework Cannon now always shoots 3 projectiles regardless of the number of enemies. So no matter what, you're going to get the maximum potential out of the Firework Cannon. Turn the Tides mod damage lowered from 500% to 300%. It's once again, on paper, it's a huge nerf. The barb is still completely ridiculous. Makes nearly no change at all in the Barbarian's effectiveness. Reduced Sonic Bat damage scaler by 30%. Overpowering Screech Shard damage increase was reduced from 50% to 25%. Now, this one here, not a lot of people really were taking advantage of the Sonic Bats. Not a super popular item, but it was extremely powerful, and it got dialed back in. Lowered Spectral Knight damage by 15%. This one, I mean, the Spectral Knight was not being used heavily. It was strong. I used it quite regularly, all the time. For people that came out to live streams or whatever, you know, this was one of my favorites. It did get a 15% damage nerf. Did it need a 15% damage nerf? Well, I mean, I personally don't think so. However, they're still quite usable. They're just hitting slightly less than before. Made identical pet abilities between separate pets share a global cooldown. This means if you had a Dragolich on your first hero and a Dragolich on your second hero, you can't, like, pop the Drago, wait for the buff to expire, then hero swap and pop another Drago. It's now sharing those abilities. Arcane Barrier now destroys projectiles after they damage the tower. One thing you'll notice with like the Shaper mini bosses, their little whirlwind will pierce. You know, it will go through and hit things back behind. This makes the Arcane Barrier pretty good for that. It's going to stop that projectile. Blazing Phoenix shard damage reduced by 50%. Now, there was a bunch of bug fixes as well. I won't go through all those. And there is a new gold skin in the black market shop for 1 billion gold for anybody who likes to spend the gold for the Adept. And then the miscellaneous changes were just the removal of the holiday event from last year. So, what do y'all think, y'all? I mean, lots of people are saying, oh, this stuff all needed to be nerfed. Lots of other people are saying, oh my god, I'm never playing the game again. What is your opinion on these balance changes in Dungeon Defenders 2? Let me know down in the comments below. I personally am never a fan of nerfs. I am a strong believer in the power fantasy in games, and I feel like if you put a bunch of time into a game, as with any other game with any sort of power fantasy, you kind of earn that level of power. Now, if something is overperforming super early game that makes that overall too powerful, then I can always understand any nerfs that are going to take place there. However, what do you think? The nerfs are in. I think nothing other than the Drain Aura maybe is completely out of contention for use anymore. I mean, I personally will never use a Drain Aura again now. I'm sure somebody will find a way to make it work. However, what do you all think of these changes? But that will do it for now. Thanks an absolute ton for watching, and I will see ya next time around. Take it easy.